We're joined right now on RealAgriculture.com by John DePape. He is the CWB monitor, I guess, as he's known. Welcome today, John.
Thank you, Sean.
Well, John, I guess we're coming up on Plebiscite D-Day. The results are supposed to be out late Friday afternoon. What are you expecting based on what you've kind of, as you oversee this voting cycle, what are you expecting from the plebiscite results?
Nothing too earth-shattering, I don't think. Let's keep in mind that the voters list is the permit book list. It's basically the same list as the voters list for the wheat board directors elections. So that's the pool of farmers or individuals that they've gone to for this vote. I think that right away we're only looking at a portion of the farm community. But also, you have to think back, I think over the last 12 years, they've been surveying farmers, not necessarily the same farmers. I think they're still permit book holders. But we have a pretty good sense of what the farm community feels about when it comes to the single desk. And I would be surprised if this plebiscite reflected anything different. However, with one caveat, I know that there's a lot of people who support an open market who have said, this is a waste of time, I'm not going to bother submitting my ballot. And you know that if you support the single desk, that you're not going to take that same position. Well, I support the single desk, but I'm not going to bother. I don't think there's been any talk of that. So because of that, you're going to see the results actually skewed further to supporting the single desk.
Yeah, so been hearing a lot of producers either mailing their ballots directly to Jerry Ritz or just throwing them in the garbage.
Yeah, correct. Some people have been sending them to Harper, Prime Minister Harper as well. I don't know what the kind of numbers there are. There's been a lot of talk of that, or as you say, they've just thrown it away. So you take those out of the equation, and I think you'll find that the plebiscite returns, if you will. I think the numbers of returning will be lower than perhaps we see in terms of elections, and the results will be probably skewed in favor of the single desk.
Okay, so let's say that's what happens, because I think that's where probably the smart money is betting at this point. What does Alan Oberg and the board do with that? Anything? Like Ritz has said, he's not going to pay any attention to it. So, for relatively good reasons, what does Oberg and the board do next?
Well, I think we have to hold him at his word. He has said many times that if the results of the plebiscite came in favor of the single desk, that they would use all available resources to fight the government and try to maintain that single desk. So I think that starting Friday, or maybe starting Monday, we should see this effort or campaign by the wheat board of directors ramped up even more than what we've seen in the past.
You've gone through a lot of the board annual reports and documents like that. Do they basically have a endless pot of money to kind of go to battle between now and August 1st, or what's the story there?
Well, I don't know if I could call it endless, but they have pretty well free rein to spend a lot of money out of the pool accounts, and I think that's what a lot of guys are getting upset about. That they hear Alan Oberg saying that they'll use all available resources, and they say, "Well, hang on a second, that's my money. That's the pool account, and that's where it would be coming out of." And
so this gets back to my, and I've taken some heat for this, but I have disagreed with this idea, whether or not you believe in the plebiscite or not. I have disagreed from day one of the concept of destroying and not submitting ballots. For this very reason, if you felt that strongly about the single, or about getting rid of the single desk, why would you not mail your ballot in to possibly prevent the pool accounts being tapped?
Well, I mean, that's a good point. I mean, if you mail your ballot in and you say, I want an open market, you are presenting a case against spending all these resources. I get that. I really do. But I also think that it doesn't matter how many guys that got ballots sent them in and said, I want an open market. I honestly think that the plebiscite is skewed badly enough that it would still show the majority of farmers wanting the single desk, simply because of the voters list.
Well, because that's what I was going to ask you is, what makes it skewed? It's because of who is actually getting the ballots in the mail? Yeah,
I think that you've got estates, deceased people getting ballots. You've got landowners that don't even really have an active role in farming anymore have a ballot. You've got a lot of people who farm, grow wheat or barley that for some reason didn't get a ballot. I've heard stories of people who had a permit book in the last number of years, grew barley, for instance, didn't get a barley ballot. And when they tried to get one, it's just too much of a hassle to get one, so they didn't bother.
So do you think that there is any probability that so if we have a result that shows farmers saying they want the single desk, and there's a strong lobbying effort from the board to Ritz's office, do you see any chance or any probability that Ritz changes his mind here?
No. Time and time again, I guess there's a non-zero probability. There's anything can happen, but time and time again, I've heard that the government is quite resolved in going this way, and I've heard it from a number of sources that there's no changing their mind on this.
So let's take the other alternative. Okay, let's say you're wrong. Let's say that the results of the plebiscite are that it's time for choice. Then what happens?
Well, I would hope that Alan Oberg is true to his word and says that they'll work toward choice. Although I find that kind of an interesting dilemma for him. They've failed to work toward developing a new wheat board, because they feel it's their fiduciary responsibility to protect the wheat board as it stands. Yet if the plebiscite, which isn't even a plebiscite, it's not even fitting with the Act, it's compliant with the Act, they say that if that plebiscite shows farmers want choice, that they'll basically put down their weapons and work toward choice. Well, they've got their fiduciary responsibility to protect the board as it is. So how can this false plebiscite change their mind? They shouldn't. And so I think he's painted himself into a corner.
Any idea when I've been hearing some rumblings or discussions, farmers starting to ask questions about, based on the resolve of Minister Ritz, what is going to happen this spring or this winter with grain contracts? Is there going to be kind of like a little bit of interim chaos, or like when are we going to start to see companies like Cargill and Viterra writing contracts with farmers?
I think what you'll see is obviously we want to start, the industry will want to start writing contracts as soon as possible. And I think that as soon as we are past basically a tipping point where there's no turning back, as soon as we cross the Rubicon, we have an indication that there's no turning back. It will be done. And we're not there yet. A lot of people still say, well, what can happen? But once we have it confirmed that it's going to go through, some people are saying they won't even wait for royal assent. They'll start new crop commerce. For instance, already I've heard of feed barley bids for July of next year of $5 a bushel. Well, I think that's your first indication of contracts for the open market.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting, and you'd think that tipping point of the no going back, new crop would be at planting time?
Yeah, well, I think even before that. I was talking to a guy in the trade today. He said you wouldn't believe the amount of canola that they're buying right now for new crop next year already. And so I think more and more, a lot of guys are looking at locking in prices a long way in advance. I think if there are some wheat contracts out there for next fall, you'd have guys signing them up right now.
Yeah. Well, I definitely, John, I think that as we've chatted several times, this is a great experiment in human behavior. Whether you're pro single desk or you are pro marketing choice, this is playing out to be a very, very interesting primetime special, no doubt.
Well, Sean, we are witnessing history. When you think, to sit back, and this is a huge event in the history of Western Canadian agriculture, the biggest in 100 years, really. And so enjoy it for what it is, and make sure that you pay attention, because this is a big event.
Well, as Terrell Owens says that when he played for the Cowboys, I hope you brought your popcorn.
Yes, I agree.
Okay, John, thanks a lot, and we will talk to you again very soon.
You bet. Thanks very much.